chance that iRacing could be in the Olympics?
That's right, Mike. And remember that you can follow along with us on your PC or your mobile device in real time as you listen to the show and see for yourself all of the great topics and products we'll discuss by visiting iRacersLounge.com. Select the show notes. We hope to see you there.
All right, first we're going to talk about avoiding 5 major mistakes. This is a video on YouTube, and I'll go down the list real quick, and then we'll hit each of them. We've got better gear makes you faster, upgrading stuff before upgrading the pedals. We talk about that a lot. Set the stiffness of your brake how you want it. Too stiff is not good. That depends on what kind of pedal you're using. Not using resources, software to assist you, and enjoying the hobby. All right, so what do you guys think on better gear makes you faster? I think this one's pretty self-explanatory.
Well, he put it out more like a warning, like, don't assume getting better gear makes you faster. Now, David, I know you've said otherwise.
I was not even thinking about gear. I was thinking about the actual gear ratio. I was like, yeah, you want to have the right gear ratio or you're not going to be
he's talking
fast.
like pedals and wheels and
better gear can make you faster if you're an amateur. Yeah. I just don't agree with him on that. Greg can attest to that. He just popped in the sim coach's pedals and saw instant results.
Well, I think what he's getting at is when you're new to sim racing, you see all the flashy stuff and all the high end stuff. And I think the expectation is, well, if I get that, 32 Newton meter direct drive wheel, I'm going to be a better driver. No, you're probably not. You're probably not going to be a much better driver until you learn racecraft and learn to drive. So, we've said before, Ty Majeski still probably using a G25. So again, it's not necessarily always the gear that makes you quick.
It's the other way around. Gear does not make you quick. You have to have the skill, but bad gear can slow you down. You put a piece of crap clarinet in my hands. I'm not going to sound as good if I'm in my buffet, right? But it's not the buffet that makes me a good player. It just allows me to be good.
Well, I got a real life example. This week, my brake pedal failed. And I got this third pedal over on the left I barely touch. It's called a clutch. So I thought, okay, I'm going to be clever. I'm going to map the brake to the clutch pedal. And it's kind of the same thing we're talking about. I'm using subpar equipment. I'm using a pedal that doesn't have much resistance in it, trying to, brake a car with it. So I get into the sim, and I'm not bad when I'm on the gas, but when it's time to hit the brake, I was all over the place or super slow. And I'm sure that over time I could probably adapt to it, but it wasn't something I could jump in and drive.
No, it's muscle memory. That would be extremely difficult.
Now, I will agree with this. Generally, as a novice, you probably shouldn't have that expensive equipment anyway. First of all, are you going to stick with it? It is a really deep investment, and you probably need a little bit more knowledge before you know exactly which expensive equipment you want to get. So it's not a good idea for the. I don't think I would have been in good shape if I had what Sim Coach's pedals 10 years ago. Right. But as you level up, unless you're a savant like Ty Majeski, sometimes poor equipment can be holding you back. So, other than that, I think we're almost beating that horse to death.
Now, and to the second point, he was just basically saying you should upgrade your pedals before you upgrade other stuff.
Certainly.
I think we can all agree on there.
We've said that multiple times, certainly. So the stiffness on the brake, that's interesting because you can't have it too stiff especially if it's not a hydraulic pedal. But even my hydraulic pedal has some travel to it. But what's different is that the muscle memory is from pressure, not from travel. Whereas when I had my V3s, I had to push them all the way down for max braking, pretty much.
Well, and like you're saying there, David, the pressure for having hydraulic pressure back on it is a lot different than a spring tension pressure, and it makes a huge difference in the muscle memory part of it.
Well, what he was getting, I think, in the video here is if you look at as somebody who starts to say they get a higher end set of pedals, and what you see a lot is, super stiff, super stiff, super stiff. Not always. Again, find something that's going to be comfortable with you, and a lot of it depends on the type of car you drive. Normally, so again, it's very easy to get lulled into seeing something and thinking, well, then I've got to run this super super stiff pedal to be competitive, and I don't think you always have to.
Well, weren't you the ones that were wondering why I put the gas pedal as non-inverted and the brake and the clutch as inverted? Like it's just preference, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's pretty normal on a lot of sports cars.
He did mention that it's normal in racing to have the very stiff pedal, but also in racing you're throwing your whole body into it and the G-force of it and so forth, and you're really stomping it. When in a sim, are you really stomping on it like you're in a car? Not quite.
And the next one, I don't think any of us don't use some kind of third-party app.
Correct. He was like, get yourself the crew chief app or something, and because it is beneficial. And look, the other day when I was trying to race without my Joel real timing and without my sim racing apps, I had trouble telling if I was going to make it on fuel and all these things all at the same time. Like it was a timed race, not a counted lap race. And so I had trouble figuring out when was the race going to end? Was I going to make it? And I was totally lost without those third party resources. And the last one is enjoy the hobby. Look, that is a major mistake. People get in, they get all gung ho and serious about it. Then they lose their mind if they lose some SR or some IR. Don't get focused on the negatives. Focus on the positives, which is the great racing.
Which is why I've gone somewhere where there is great racing.
Touche.
All right. Well, we have the big one probably as well, Brad, with the iRacing development update for August 24.
Yeah, lots of stuff in here to digest. I think we'll be getting these for about a year and a half, is what it said. So we're 4 weeks away from season 4 build. I don't know how you guys want to attack this. There's a lot in here.
Well, the first section I'll talk about. Basically, he talks about his staff and the building of the staff. He talks about balance between iRacing Sim and the other console games that are being produced. How there's not really overlap. They have, their individual teams, but they do work together, which brings value to all the different titles. He also talks about some of the key hires he's gotten recently. Basically, picking out some of the best talent in the gaming industry from the competition. He kind of goes on about certain people that he's added to certain departments that are really going to enhance what's going on at with their projects.
Yeah, looks like picked up some people that are, I guess, pretty some veterans with multiplayer networking, along with some AI industry veterans, more software engineers, and then continuing to increase the graphics.
They got a huge graphics guy coming.
Yeah, they've added 2 of the industry's leading graphics engineers. So I know there's some talk down here later where they're working on, I guess, the new graphics engine, which I guess is DX12, is what it said.
But he's talking that there's an industry leading from one of the big industry standard, or where is it? Hold on. He won't name drop, but they can say the director of graphics is one of the 2 big game industry graphic engineer companies, and his research in graphics has become industry standards in all gaming. So they have someone common.
And
that's
that's
a win.
A good example. The software engineer guy, this one kind of caught my interest. He said, strategically, we will have him slated to begin his contributions on projects related to the system we call race control, which controls how races are controlled and rules are enforced.
That's
We've been wanting that for a while.
long needed. I mean, they got to do something about it when you come out of the pits late and then are told to pass people. That's the number one race control issue, I think. That a close tie with people basically being at a complete stop and still getting their spot back. I glanced ahead as you guys were talking, and the big one, I think, the real highlight is the Spa.
Oh yeah, Spa's had so many changes. So yeah,
I think I saw that that's a 50-50 chance for season 4.
So they're doing that by getting the data sent to them of the new stuff that they're adding, because it sounds like they're still upgrading the facility as they go here for the next couple of years.
But they have scanned it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And a new track, Caldwell Park from UK.
It's just finally getting where they're using drone images for some of the scenery.
I wonder if this is going to be just like, it's obviously just a track in the middle of nowhere. Like, there's nothing really around it. It's just brush. It's going to be a very green track, it looks like.
Yeah, it's a...
sorry, Brad. I was going to say the drones thing is like, he mentioned that's like a new method of capturing data, and it's going to make the tracks look even more realistic, is basically what he said.
Are they allowed to use the drones in France if they need to do a French track? Oh, that's a Canadian joke. Sorry.
Fill us in.
It's the Olympic break. It's the Olympic break. The Canadian women were caught cheating with the drones in France. The guy's in jail. Anyways,
I'm boycotting the Olympics after the intro, so sorry. I'm not watching.
It's over anyways, almost.
Go ahead, Brad. I interrupted you more than once.
That's all good. So we do have some new cars coming. Looks like we're going to get the updated BMW M4 GT4 Evo. So that's a nice upgrade for the GT4 cars. Going to get the McLaren 720S GT3 Evo. So another updated GT3, GTD, whatever you want to call it, for IMSA, WEC, and all that, which has been much needed. The McLaren we've got is extremely outdated. And kind of a surprise, mini stock. I didn't expect that coming, so that thing looks pretty cool. Not sure if I'll ever run it, but it does look pretty neat.
The entry level car, really light, only 200 horsepower. I bet it races really good. They talk about it racing very well.
I wonder if this will be kind of like another rookie possibility for against the Legends.
Or after Legends, you move from Legends to mini stock. Yeah.
Well, you don't really run Legends anymore anyway. Everybody does street stock.
Is it street stock that they start off with?
Yeah, that's their rookie car now.
Oh wow!
I wonder if this will be before street stock. Kind of like, will this be a launching point?
I wish they'd go back to Legends instead of street stock because it's smaller tracks and more racecraft. But they'll just fast track out of it anyway. Here's some interesting stuff. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I could just remember when I first started and I was running Legends, and I ran so many laps at South Boston and Lanier back and forth each week.
I actually started to really enjoy the little Charlotte Oval. On the rain side, spotty rain. It'll be an additional type of rain where you can set the condition to be spotty, where it might rain, it might not. It's going to be less predictable. That's pretty cool. Additional rain tires for quite a few cars. And here's a biggie that we have been talking about for a while. Qualifying visibility. You cannot see somebody else when you're in the car, but now once you're on the replay screen, you can watch other people qualify.
It's awesome. So I do my 2 laps. I get out of the car. I look at the leaderboard. I see who has pole. I click on his name. I hit rewind and I hit play and I watch his fast lap before time runs out.
Hopefully, you
basically.
have enough time to watch it, but you can go back after the end of the race if you have constant replays on, and you can watch it at the end too if you did something special.
Well, I think it gives the opportunity to stop some of the shenanigans that we've talked about.
Or it helps them also find more of the shenanigans that are happening too, right?
Right. There's always going to be that one guy in the race that's looking, hey, what did he do? Did he do donuts before he started his lap or what? Okay, so dirt enhancement, and then the next one, enhanced multi-manufacturer and multi-class splitting algorithm. Now, I read this maybe 2 or 3 times trying to get a real handle on what they're doing. He basically said, we still haven't released exactly how we split these races or the secret sauce behind the algorithm of how they split up multi-class racing. But we're going to refine it, basically, is the way this reads. They're going to take a different approach to get a better balance between the different classes. In some of these scenarios where we see certain, all GT3 fields or you got LMP guys that are low I rating into a higher split, or and those kind of problems.
That's my biggest complaint is when you've got, an SOF of say the GTDs are, I don't know, say 2400 and you got LMP2s at 1100. It's a disaster.
And there's some cases where they've put, I'm just kind of in middle of the road GTP driver. And there are some tracks where these LMP2s, if it's a 5,000 I rating LMP2 driver, he can outrun me.
Okay, so I want to read this part. It says, this is a big change to make. We won't be diving right in. Rather, we're going to be testing this new system out during week 13 in a test series. For the test, the more participants, the better. So we really appreciate as many folks partake as possible.
So I really hope it does do something where you might just either shrink the size of the overrepresented field, or sometimes it might just have to be one of the upper splits that doesn't have all three classes in a particular case. But at least just shrink the size sometimes, if particularly. I would rather the 500 guy be down in one of the lower splits, even if there's only 5 of them, versus have your 500 I rating guy up in the top split.
Correct.
I appreciate as they're listening to the community and tweaking accordingly. Look, this works. I mean, yeah, it wasn't perfect, but it works. And they probably got bigger fish to fry. For them to take the time to, let's try to modify this a little bit and make it better. I like it.
But just for the purpose of history's sake, before the current system, they would literally split everything in half. So if there were, say, only 4 LMP drivers registered for a race and the whole thing split 3 times, several of the races would have only one person in the class.
See, you just said what I was thinking I was going to get worried about is when you get down to those lower splits, is it going to all of a sudden throw some GTP into a field instead of it just being an all GTD or GT3 field when you have so many registers? Because you obviously know the GTDs or GP3s register more. So like in a big race, like when we run the 24-hour races, you're going to have multiple splits that are just GT cars.
Yeah, and right now the splits are all at the bottom. And so the weakest LMP2 split, say in most of the special events, is up at like split 12 or 13 instead of split 30. So what I have suggested in the past is move those LMP2 fields down based on their strength of field to a more similar strength of field. That means some of the upper splits are going to be missing that class instead. But the question is, do you want to be missing that class, or do you want to be racing somebody in that class who's just way too outclassed?
Well,
Yeah, I'd rather have a full field of GT3s like we did for the 6 hours of the Glen, as opposed to having somebody with a 600 I rating, screaming around me in an LMP2.
and they're obviously they're not the top split. They're always going to make sure they have all the classes for the broadcast ready, right?
Yeah, but does it always have to be full size? Right? Maybe they only take 5 LMP2s if the sixth ranked LMP2 is a 500 guy, and then they put or they split it more in half if it reaches a reasonable. They're probably going to be trying to find some kind of middle ground, because the first extreme was you could have one car in a class per split. The current extreme is they shove them all in the top split. So they're probably going to try to find some way to balance it in the middle, and I look forward to seeing how that works.
Put more weight towards the I rating versus the splitting of the classes, right? Next up was Instant AI. They give you a button to load right into a session with AI right from a particular session or season or event that you're on looking at with the same conditions. Account management is fully within the UI. There's going to be two-factor authentication. Tires and physics. This one was interesting. He says Dave K has a prototype up and running for a force feedback calibration process that will allow iRacers to get their various hardware set up in an optimum way for the sim. Right now, force feedback stuff is scattered all over in the sim options. You got the wheel stuff on the front page. You got the butt kicker stuff in a miscellaneous tab somewhere else. It'd be kind of neat to, and then even somewhere else you have the pedals switch for your pedal shaking, and so it'd be kind of cool to see all that in one spot in the options. I think that's what they're talking about.
That whole new um, user UI that they're doing for the in-game, like you think that once they get it, not to update what they have now and change the screens, when they refresh the whole thing, that obviously is probably going to go with that.
Right, there's a whole new UI coming. They do mention that. That's totally different than what we're using now. So a beta UI to the beta UI. And then the graphic engine update is based on what they call a DX12 prototype. And they have a GIF here that shows basically some early renders. Now, they're not entirely finished or pretty, but they're very excited because it's actually working.
I mean, it looks good. Um, just it's kind of small. Really, it's hard to tell much of a difference between what we got now.
Well, like it says, there's no lighting or any of the effects in there. It's just the um, the render of what's there.
I like this part. It says the UI platform creates a foundation to expand functionality in the future to reduce the dependence on third-party apps for functionality that iRacing should have by default.
That would be nice.
But what is that saying? Are they going to build in a piece of technology that tells me how fast I am on a 20 lap run or a 30 lap run that somebody's already, that third party app that I use? Is there going to be someone that, are they going to fill in having a spotter overlays and things like that?
I don't know. I mean, something as simple as a track map overlay would be nice. It was built into the game.
Okay. Didn't they build in a little dashboard that you hit the D key or something and a little dash comes up? It was so ugly and rudimentary, and it doesn't live up to the hype of what some of these third-party overlays. I don't know, and so maybe there's some limitations based on the sim and the UI or the software they're using. I don't know, but it is refreshing to say that to see that they're thinking about that.
Well, the other problem is that they also got to think of they're going to be adding these things in for two different types of, well, technically three different types of people using things. You got triples, single monitors, and VR. So, someone like David who runs VR, you got to think, okay, if I want to put the track map up, is it locked into the center of the screen, or can David move it up or down? somewhere else if he had to in VR.
Why would you do any overlay that you can't move?
That's what I'm. No, that's what I'm saying. Like that's things that third parties have already solved, right?
Well, you can move any of the stuff on the screen around now just by hitting Alt K. You can move all the boxes and everything.
But iRacing in VR, David, does it let you go all the way with those things? Doesn't it locked?
No, I can go anywhere on that plane.
Okay, I thought it was locked to a plane in the car, like in the field of view.
I have never run into an edge, but I have never tried to run into an edge. So I'll try to remember to check that out. But I don't ever recall not being able to put anything where I want because I've got it all in the field of view anyway. Right? I'm not gonna stick something over behind my right ear to look at.
Okay, we'll say they made a dashboard, or not a dashboard, what do you call it? A standings thing, and you wanted to move it up higher, like above when you look up. Well, I don't think, if I remember correctly, VR locks in at a certain thing for iRacing, but I could be wrong.
I have stuff like the session timer all the way up above the mirror.
But that's still locked inside I don't think you can go way farther than a certain amount. But anyways, I don't want to keep going at this, but I was just curious.
Remind me to report back on it next week.
Circuit Zolder is getting a graphical update, as well as New Hampshire Motor Speedway, and they're revisiting the entire NASCAR library as well. Well, then he talks future content.
Zolder, which is that's not the Netherlands one or the Dutch one. That's not the Dutch Grand Prix track, is it?
That's Zandvoort.
Okay, yeah. So never mind. Go ahead.
Other tracks for future show Croft and Thruxton have already been scanned, with Thruxton next on the dev schedule. We're scanning the Bend this week and plan to visit Adelaide in November. Valencia is under contract. We have been trying to get traction with Circuit Asan, but are having trouble getting a response. Does anybody know the folks who run the track? Let them know you'd love to see Asan in iRacing. Now, right before recording, I saw a tweet from Steve Myers saying, "Hey guys, thanks for the heads up. We got in touch with Asan." So already the iRacers have done their magic and gotten the track to reach out to iRacing. Continuing on, our scan team has made several stops at several NASCAR tracks to get us the most up-to-date data for the NASCAR refresh. And then Huset Speedway is underway. And that will be in iRacing and World of Outlaws, and dirt road content is being actively developed.
Multiple new GT3 cars. There's going to be some new supercars.
Please be the Lexus.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to get the Lexus.
There's a McLaren we're going to talk about later, I believe. Overhaul of the Legends car, where they're going to incorporate the new tire model, I guess, and some of the new engine specs. Oval Racing is going to see many additions with the proper Gen 4 car, and they're also revisiting ARCA. They're lining up to scan some new dirt road cars, and several other cool projects. There's a couple of supercars that apparently did not make the Season 4 build. Now that's the V8s, I guess, right?
Is the Gen 4 car that's the junior car that was scanned, or the ones that were scanned in the museum, right?
Yes.
Okay, so then that means that they're going to go to the more up-to-date ARCA car eventually down the road, I hope.
Well, that's what they're saying, that Gen 4 comes out now, and then they're working on ARCA in the future.
Isn't the current Gen 4 car also basically just the ARCA car? Oops.
Yes,
right,
currently.
ARCA with horsepower, yeah.
I'm excited for the new supercar, too, that's coming out.
A few other tidbits here. Oval Refresh Phase 2 has been mentioned. Project still in the works. Not much to share there. He mentioned the DDoS attack, basically saying operations and support did a great job and have learned from this and made things even better, basically.
So we get a bunch of pictures down here at the bottom, and the mini stock cockpit looks fantastic. if this is the level of detail that's going to come in some of this newer stuff, then they need to update some of the older stuff.
It looks real, doesn't it?
That looks really good.
Yeah. What else do you see in the pictures?
I like the they're showing the guardrail here and some of the terrain, like a terrain. They were just trying to see with how many or the difference between photo scans and like the final mesh with the polys and stuff. It looks so realistic.
There's a photo showing a real race car with microphones zip tied inside on the roll bars, and then they show a iRacing audio engineers capture and process ambisonic audio, and there's like a 3-dimensional sphere model thing.
Wasn't there a whole audio update that they're working on too?
Oh
Yeah, reverb and everything, but they want to do it the right way.
All right. Well, Mike, you mentioned you're boycotting the Olympics. Will this next thing get you to watch it again?
It would actually. We have a article from Mike Straw from Insider Gaming, and he said, "What games are at the Esport Olympics?" He said, "Are you excited for the Esport Olympics, which are set to begin next year? Here's every game that will be included at the Olympic Esports, and iRacing is on the list."
So I told the new wife, I told the wife, I was like, all right, new challenge. I'm going to be an Olympic athlete.
Translation, you're going to effectively be a Coke driver.
But we could make the Olympics.
Well, they should do it like the old school Olympics where it has to be amateurs. None of the Coke drivers can
well, then there you go. That we're a bunch of hacks.
I think would they not technically be the amateurs if the NASCAR guys came in and started driving the cars, wouldn't it?
No, they're getting paid to ride in the Coke series. They are.
That's
pros.
true. Yeah, that's right. They are pros.
I think the question I come up with, that I think about this, is logistically, how would it play out? Like, would it be where iRacing holds, competitions much like they do now, like qualifying series, to whittle it down to a handful of people that get to go to France or whatever and run the Olympics? Crazy to think about.
Do they do that they actually have to go there and do it, or do they do it from their homes? And then what happens if an internet connection costs you a gold medal?
What happens if they happens if they get a DDoS during the during the Olympics?
Yeah, something like this, I think you would be there in person, like a LAN event. You would bring kind of like we do with the final with the Coke. You bring the 4 finalists together and they race on stage. Something like that is what I would envision. But how do you? I'm interested in the logistics of how do you figure out who gets to go? Yeah. And what kind of car would it be? Would it be the Porsche? Would it be an open wheel? There's so many different things that would be hashed out.
They should do it like a decathlon.
People in the Olympics have no idea.
They should do a decathlon. Pick like 8 different cars, 8 different tracks, and you have to place points as it goes through the whole thing.
So multiple disciplines.
Now, this next post is funny, and it's appropriate considering how many of us are kind of grumpy old men. What is your take on the good old days? It's a post from Brian Corwin. He says, I remember there used to be setup guides, long discussions about car setups, people sharing their replays and doing post-race analysis on what they could have done better. Yes, I don't think some of that's gone away.
No, I tell you what surprised me the most was when I got back on the service last year was the forums. So the one thing that I really enjoyed when I was on the service, up until 2016, I know it was the old forums, but the forums were super active, and even in the
forums.
in the different car classes, they were super active. And I mean, there was lots of stuff to read. There was lots of great communication. And that was the one thing I was so looking forward to getting back to, and was woefully disappointed since I've been back on the service with the forums.
Yeah, this forum is just not taken off in the same way.
It hasn't, no. And it would, this show, we used to drive the content from that we talked about weekly on this show, mostly from the forums. And when they converted to the new system, that broke all my email notifications that I had, fine tuned over the years to get all that content. I would just have it delivered to my inbox. It was pretty easy. And so as the new forums came up, that broke all that. And so now most of our content is derived via social media rather than the forums. I get very little from the forums these days.
I do feel for the guy that wrote this. I mean, I remember the first probably 4 or 5 years of on here. You'd win a race, or you race, and whoever the winner was sometimes would share their setup at the end, or at the end of a week or whatever. They talk things over, or you go into the forums and, hey guys, try this. This is what we've been trying setup wise, or things like that. There used to be all kinds of that because all the cars were separated in their own forums. They had their own discussions, and it just seems like, when that forums went away, the community feeling went away.
Oh, and I was going to say, verbally in the races, it's different. And the verbal communication is a little more negative. It's not as friendly, I guess I'll say.
I would say it's almost completely negative. I mean, it's almost completely negative.
And was it before, Brad? I mean,
No.
we still had negativity, but not as much, right?
Yeah, you had it, but it not at the level it is now. It's just, I mean, guys would screw up, and you'd make a mistake, and you'd say so. Someone would get mad, but it didn't turn into the you effing dum and ba bump, and it's just, gosh, I don't even want to listen to it half the time.
I just hate it's like, oh, this guy does this every single week, or it's like, they're always harping on somebody, or they're even they're saying that they think they're all the best out there with what they're talking about, and whatever they say is gold, and it's just the community isn't the way it used to be.
My grumpy old man take, get off my lawn is the website. I miss the website. It just worked. I'm not kidding. Just last night, I went to look at stats for the F4 Series Championship, and all I get is a spinning circle. I got this LAN connected computer that's brand new. Everything should work like a charm. I got cable company internet, and I get a spinning circle. Well, while I'm waiting for the spinning circle, which by the way never loaded, not once, I let it sit. I opened up the iRacing app on my phone and brought up the points within about 15 seconds. So that's what I miss, is the old website. I'm sick of the new UI. And the other thing, when you look at the new UI and you look at hosted and you're trying to look for something fun to run, it's impossible to look at this giant list of data and decipher what you're looking at. Back when it was on the website, there was a way I could just glance at it and like, oh, that looks like fun, and then boom, I'm in it. All right.
So this next one is a forum post about trackside view cams from the grandstands, setting it up as if you were actually there. This was pretty neat to kind of go put a camera in position, like when I went to watch the 2400. I mean, not the 2400, the Daytona 24, or the or in any of the races at any of the other tracks I've been to. This guy, he set up some cams at 24 hours, and it was just opening basically a discussion. Like, where would you want to set these cam files up?
Like the images he's got here are really really well done. Um, I never thought about moving my camera into the crowd and kind of just watching something. It would be interesting to see, maybe the next time we're at Bristol to watch some replays from sitting in the grandstand would be kind of cool.
Done that at Milwaukee, actually, but not Bristol, where I'd put myself up into the stands, like on the top row, and just kind of watch it from there. Um, it's a little tricky with the Control Z and using your mouse to turn the head. With the triples, it's probably better in VR.
I mean, there's some tracks where even some of the ovals, there's like, you've got a spectator camera view, which actually puts you up there. There's some of them that I think it has like a spotter. Um, I still think iRacing can do a better job with the cameras. Some of the ones that have, there's um, you've got like a track static, and then you've got, I think it's like a multi where it'll go through and it'll kind of clip through all the other ones, but then you go to some of them and it's just 1, 2, 3, and that's it. So I just think they could probably take a shot at redoing a lot of those.
I haven't seen it in a while, but usually every year someone posts um, the broadcast uh, angles, so they'll take it from the races and they'll do a Fox cam and use all their angles that they do at the tracks, and obviously the Fox one will be really zoomed in, and then if you go to NBC, um, you can have those ones too. I don't know if they still do that, but there was one guy that was doing it every year.
I don't think we've seen it since the old forums.
Yeah, I would gather the same thing. I'll have to look and see.
All right, this is an interesting debate. Greg, we have a question about best iRacing car of the decade.
Yeah, I haven't got through this, but it looks like the five choices that they talk about in this video is the Formula V, the Dallara, uh, P217, the LMP2 car, the Ray FF 1600, Toyota GR86, and then the Porsche 911 Cup 992. I don't know if the Porsche 911 or the Porsche Cup cars had a couple different variations over its lifespan. The only one that I've really run on here is the Dallara LMP2, and I like that car, but I don't know if those are the cars that I'd choose for the decade or for over the decade either, because they're more of the newer ones.
The title also needs to be renamed the best road cars of the decade.
Well, it's Dave Cam who did this. It's posted on Traction GG. But he gives a little, an explanation. The Formula V, while it's a entry class car, is a I think it's a 4-speed H pattern, but again, it doesn't have a dog box, so you've got to use the clutch to shift. The Dallara, while it's a downforce car, it's not a high downforce car. It doesn't have, I don't think it's got traction control, doesn't have ABS, so you still have to drive the car. The Ray FF 1600, a step up from the Formula V, still, I think it's a 4-speed, but it's got a dog box, so you don't have to use the clutch. Toyota GR86, very similar to the Mazda Miata, just quicker. And then with the Porsche 911 Cup car, he's talking about the latest iteration of that. I think it's probably one of the most challenging cars to drive, which for me makes it fun because it's racecraft. It's a rear engine car that you can spin out very easily. So you've got to learn to drive the car. It's not just a point and shoot car.
Now, I feel like some of the way Dave Cam's going with some of these are all updated versions of cars from the past, like the decade. Obviously, the Toyota GR86 is from the Mazda, and then it was before the Mazda was the Solstice originally. Like they're just up more versions of that they're using nowadays because of an update. The Porsche obviously has been having updates through the years. The Formula V, the Skip Barber had to have been probably the most used car for 10 years before that.
Yeah.
Like these
Yeah,
are all just
he's
seem like
picking.
he's like picking the newer versions of cars, and
Well,
I
from
think that
2020 on. Yeah, that's what he's. The parameter
so he's
is
saying this
what
decade.
cars have come out in this decade would you pick, right? And so, even though Greg, you mentioned Skip Barber is probably more iconic and this and that, that's obviously been out for longer. Yeah, I gave Dave Cam a little hard time in the comments. I said, "Where's the Gen 4? Where's the Gen 5?"
Well, it'd be hard to find anybody that's going to say the COT is going to be the one of the best NASCARs ever created.
It's literally the fastest one we have on the circuit. That baby can go 245, down the straight.
I don't doubt you, Mike. I miss that car so much when racing this thing. The other night when we ran the Gen 4 with horsepower and being loose, it reminded me so much of that COT car.
So I started running the beat car, but I'm just going to I'm going to save results or final thoughts to talk about it. But it's just prophetic, everything y'all are saying. All right. So we have the next thing is an update about the revamping of the Roval. And I agree with Brad. We should need to go back to the oval with this car because the only thing it is good at is mile and a half right now. But they started the new paving and it's showing the modifications to turn 5, 6, 7, as well as 16. And it's just going to make 16 a much more extreme braking zone.
Well, it's also making, what is it? 7's going to be a major braking zone too.
Yeah. I mean, look, we went to this race last year, and it's the first time I went to Charlotte to see a race. I've been to Charlotte before, but we had never been down there for a race, and it was great to be at the racetrack, but not to watch the Roval. It's just, I don't know. I'm all about road course racing, and I'm fine with what they do, but this does not fit this car at all. It's just not enjoyable.
That 16 trying to brake coming off the banking, hitting the inside and being more like you're still going to be going left harder than you were before, and then trying to make 16, 17 it's just going to be so tight. I think that one's going to be, you're going to have so many slowdowns because people hop in the curbs there. And
is there a pit wall there?
No, it's going to be one of those high curbs that you bounce off of or bounce over.
So anybody who misses that, are they going to end up on pit lane with a penalty?
Oh, pit lane will still have the wall right by the. So it goes to the end of 16 there.
All right.
And 7, I'm kind of glad.
7 is a big change. Wow.
I like the way they did 7 because the 5, 6, 7, what they had before. It's such the left-hander to going the two left-handers back to back. You'd always hit, you graze that wall on the right side, and it just, you can never get up in the banking at the speed that you're supposed to take through there properly. I feel like when you're this slow coming out of 7, it's going to be a lot better.
But look, go from a safety and aspect going into 7. This looks horrible. There's no runoff at all. This is going to be a super fast 4, 5, 6 is going to be super fast run because those are just kinks.
I'm wondering how.
And they're going to have all kinds of speed that's going down to 0 right there.
Those are a lot more than kinks. You try to flat out those, and you're going.
I'm guessing those are going to be maybe a third gear with lift and brake.
5 is still the same configuration it was last year, and that was just a blip that was just a blip, and you were right up the hill.
But I think 6 is going to be. It's still going to be the same gear. It's going to be
fourth to third and 6. Yeah.
But what it also is going to do is it makes 10 and 11 a slower corner coming into it. They're going to be diving further in because they're not going to have as much speed getting there as much as they did last year.
I don't like the runoff. Going into 7, there is none. It's just a wall there.
Yeah, we need to be back on the oval, plain and simple.
Was it a wall or all tires that they had separated the track? There is a wall in between with tires, wasn't it?
Yes.
They're going to need the tires to be adjusted a lot probably in that race.
So I didn't get to run it last weekend because I was gone to a band directors convention. But the stories of the MX5 races were worse than A cars at Martinsville, apparently. So we got a post from Jordan Worth. He was in this exact race, and what? And it's the most fun he's ever had. Okay, 46 cautions is a little much, but a lot of us were having fun on the voice chat and enjoying it being there. Well, that's because you weren't racing; you were talking. It was a hangout session.
That's right. That's what it was. It was very similar to A racing at Martinsville. Now I was planning on running this, and you look the week before. I think a lot of us were kind of gung ho. This sounds fun, and as I approached it, my spidey sense started going off like run away, and so I decided not to do it. When I saw the time, I thought it started at a regular time, but it was starting 3 p.m. local my time, which is very unusual. Races usually start at 7. And so I figured it would take 4 hours. One one of them went 4 hours and 15 minutes. Um, but basically, I was thinking I'm going to miss dinner if I run this. Never mind. So I didn't do it.
No, no. I think it would have in concept. It's a really neat idea. It'll probably be okay in real life, but we got too many idiots. Just what it is. I just hate to say it.
We had quite a few drivers after hearing how it went for some people just said, "Nah, I won't run it."
Yeah, I mean, I put up in the top split, I guess, on what was it, Saturday morning? I don't know, whatever it was, but it was 46 cautions, 216 laps under yellow or something. It was ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. I only no.
Oh, we have other comments. Anthony Kernich posted up. This was the worst event in sim racing history. And is he right? Is this really the worst one? It might be.
Maybe official, but I was in a race in a majors race at Rockingham in I think it was either the 87s or the ARCA car. It was one of the older cars, and that was a full length, I think 500, and they ran out of time because they didn't buy enough time on the hosted server. It ran over 5 hours. So this is right on par with that, I think, except this one was an official event, not a league event.
And then finally, we have a video from Nick Nebon, who ran the event. And he put up a video. It's about 30 some minutes where he basically shows every incident of the race, every caution, every wreck. He just shows a replay of it, and he fast forwards and goes to the next one. And it took over 30 minutes to literally show each and every one of them. I actually sat through this video. I was doing other stuff, but I had it kind of playing in the background so I could hear him talking. What was interesting is he would call out the number of the people in the incident, and as the video wore on, you hear the same numbers getting involved in the same incidents over and over again. But by the end of the race, like everyone had been involved in stuff, and like even Nick Nebon, who kind of held back and missed all the early carnage, he eventually got caught up in crap, and that was just none of his doing. You can't miss it. But yeah, you want to see a shit show? Yeah, go check his video.
Right. So we mentioned some G33 cars coming out. We have a non-skinned render of the McLaren that's coming in the next build.
So
Yeah,
nice.
render.
It looks so nice.
Yeah, it looks fantastic.
I
I drive the old McLaren still.
This still makes me want that Lexus so bad.
The issue is I mean, that platform is so old, and I don't know what Lexus or Toyota is going to do. They need to do something. I mean, I don't know if there's a new car coming out of the pipeline at some point, but it's an old car.
Why don't they I'm surprised they haven't made Because there's a Celica version. Like, there's a Toyota. I know there's renderings and stuff of a Toyota Celica that was leaked,
That'd
possibly
be a
coming.
Celica.
What the
Celica.
hell is a Celica?
That's what they call them up in Canada.
Is that what they call it because Toyotas have a tendency to leak?
Celica?
Celica.
Just because you're American doesn't mean it's right.
Beg to differ. Fahrenheit all the way, baby.
Yeah, that's right. Because one country does it over the rest of the world makes it right.
I'm on your side with the metric system. I would much prefer it.
Ask David what system he uses in most of his GT cars too.
I switched to metric because it's the car is designed it. I don't care what you ask for. I'm going to explain. I've said it before. I explain it. Now, the reason Fahrenheit makes more sense in for people is, well, for one thing, the 0 degrees Fahrenheit is the freezing temperature for maximally brine water. So it's not just some random number. If you have fully salted water, it freezes at 0 on the Fahrenheit scale. That's where he came up with that. And in the 80s and 70s and 90s, it just makes more sense. I mean,
There goes all our viewers. There goes all our
because we grew up on it.
Anything based off, off a 10 is much easier. It's so much easier working in it when you're doing measurements and everything.
Except Fahrenheit, you have more degrees, so you have more detail.
Greg, I'm on your side.
It's all good. I just had to. I know there's two different ways to pronounce that car's name too. It's just done different.
Do they seriously call it Celica up there?
That's how we've always called it.
Wow.
I could be wrong. I don't know. That's what I have.
I mean, I know we have different pronunciations with the Brits, but I've never heard. What is it? Celica?
They have projects up there. They do projects.
All right. Well, let's move on and talk
do
about
this.
the next item. It's from the top to the bottom.
Yeah, this is another iRating related look at NASCAR real drivers. This one is like, who's the highest iRating? And you get a mix of names that are spread across the decades here that you really wouldn't put together necessarily. What do you think, Brad, about some of these names? And like this one, I'm looking at about 3 minutes in, he's got the 4,000 range up. Michael McDowell, Jeremy Mayfield, Justin Allgaier, Dennis Setzer, Johnny Sauter, Harry
Sauter.
Musgrave.
Yeah, no, this was pretty neat. He ranks the top 100. So yeah, you've got a lot of the guys that were a lot of your bushwhackers, I guess you could say, ones that kind of stay in the Bush series. We're in that mid fours. So spoiler alert, Kevin Harvick's the highest, which still surprises me, as I would have thought that Kyle Busch, with all of the other stuff that he ran, would probably have the highest iRating. But I'm guessing probably the strength of field is what probably got him running the lower series, not having the strength of field.
Pretty neat.
Yeah, and he did the bottom 50 as well. And it was, who was it? Somebody, I think it was Jeff Green. It went from like 4,400 at one point all the way down to 58. So it's interesting to see how it works. And again, I don't think this isn't a true iRacing thing. Again, I think that would be a little bit difficult, but I think it's still pretty neat. Still a lot of information in here.
Well, like the Jeff Green, you just mentioned him. I mean, he got fired from a really good car, and then he stepped into crap cars after that until he retired. So it kind of makes sense.
All right, who watched the highlights?
Nobody here. I don't think nobody actually watched it. I didn't. I kind of skipped through it. I like to see what cars are racing because sometimes it reminds me, oh, I need to go race that car.
Yeah, I mean it was the usual mix. We had a couple ovals. They what is it? The Ford? Is it the SRF? Is that right? Bunch of open wheels. So I mean it's kind of the normal stuff, um, nose to nose finish, different stuff. So yeah, it was pretty good. Nothing super exciting this time.
They had the racing with Fittipaldi, as the first one, but we saw that in a separate social media post already. So
All right, quick little patch came out. Some of it looks to be security related, which might be some of the implementations they've done to deal with the DDoS stuff. So they're moving some of that around to protect them from that in the future. They've also improved the AI drivers line. This one's interesting on physics. There's the revenge of the blue pit cone, which would sometimes reappear in your car, and they have taken care of that. They think they fixed some physics crash to desktop issues as well. Looks like they did some tweaking to active reset. 360 hertz mode is now fully enabled for Sim Magic. Can you confirm this, Brad?
I have not had a chance. Was out of town for work, so I may try to get on a little bit when we get done tonight. So I'm looking forward to it. I've read some of the chatter on the forums and then some stuff on Discord. So it seems to be okay. A lot of the same stuff that was talked about when they released it for SimuCube. There is I guess, a delay built into it because the 360 hertz is, I guess, stuck in the 60 hertz as opposed to just completely exporting or coming out in 360. Again, it's a little over my head.
All right, then just some tweaks to cars and tracks.
this one you missed was the support for vibrations for conspit pedals have been added.
The pedals that we can't buy.
All right, so we have Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup qualifying, and I guess this is not the series itself, but people trying to qualify for the series as per the title, right? Did anybody give this one a watch?
Well, I looked over the article. Basically, it's a mid-season report. I mean, we've been kind of not talking about these as they happen each week, so I thought I'd bring it up. Looking at the points, Mitchell De Jong is De Jong is there at the top. Uh, Obviously, he's a returning champion trying to get back in. Some other notable names I see here is also Josh Rogers, another champion. Bobby Zielinski is on the list as well. So yeah, looks like it's shaping up to be a neat field.
It's the second place guy that's sitting there with 2 wins. Now, this is only 3 races in. The second place guy has 2 wins, which must mean his third race was not so great.
Yeah, I think these are a little more exciting once we actually get into the season because you've got the sprint races and then you've got the longer races as well. So, but qualifying series again, you got to set the field, so that's what they're working on. But again, like Mike said, a lot of familiar names towards the top.
All right, this next one is right up our alley as we've been just talking about the A car and the A car and the A car. So DJ put out a video, and it basically says iRacing pros suck now. It's the worst driving standard they've ever had, et cetera, et cetera. I didn't watch it, but I agree.
Well, he tries to quantify it. Like there's a lot of talk about that, but is there statistics to back that up? And so he does go through and do basically caution counts, the Coke races over the years. I think the end result was 2023 was kind of an anomaly, kind of a crap year. But other than that, it really hasn't gotten that much worse than it was before. It was the takeaway I got. Brad, did I miss it or?
No, I mean, I think you're right. He had to make some adjustments because if you remember, I guess it's probably what 2021 or 22 is when they shortened the races. So he used a factor, I think, of like 1.2 or something to increase the caution count, trying to get it similar. But you know, I'm looking at the graph he's got in here, and if we go all the way back to 14, the average number of cautions was like 4 point, maybe let's say 4.8. 16 was lower. 17 was, probably almost 7. 18 was, a little over 4. 20 was right at 4. 21 was actually the lowest at about 3. I mean, the one thing that he did say was, as you've had the different iterations of the cars, is when you see um, a lot of the change. So when the cars were very hard to drive, you had less cautions because typically, if you had a caution, it was because somebody had lost the car on their own. The fields were spread out a lot more. As you got into the lower horsepower years, like when they ran the 550 package, you saw the cars grouped up more. And that's kind of what he attributes a lot of the recent stuff to, is because it's almost pack racing every single week. Nobody ever really gets away from themselves. So when one person makes a mistake, it does end up collecting a lot of cars. And this was kind of spawned off of the race from Pocono that just kind of turned into a disaster there at the end. So, look, I like the way that DJ does stuff. He's very analytical. He doesn't just come out with a statement and make it. He tries to find the data to back it up, which is what I do like.
Yeah, and I like it too because you hear all the negative stuff, a lot, and so to have the data to kind of sway that back the pendulum the other way, to give you a real perspective of what's going on.
Well,
And
the
he
data
said,
reinforces the fact. Sorry, the data reinforces the fact that low HP is terrible.
yeah, yeah. And again, I think that's the conclusion. There are outliers in every year. There were, every year had at least a race where there was extremely higher number of yellows. So, and I don't remember which year had the worst. I don't remember, but again, it's. I think his conclusion is that 2024, while it may seem worse, is really actually not as bad as it seems.
All right, this next one, I'm glad we moved up into the topics, even though it's kind of sort of software. It's 3 secret iRacing settings. I kind of came across this one, and I haven't had a chance to incorporate it yet because it's marching camp season. I've barely been home, but it's a couple of neat little settings, including changing kind of a laser scan setting, and I think that just it changes the resolution of how much of the laser scan data is rendered graphically. Is the way I read it. And then there's also a change that will actually reduce the delay in your downshifting. And it's designed to help prevent from accidentally double shifting. But if you turn that down to 0, the debounce sequence number, it will allow you to downshift faster. And you only need to, I guess, bump that back up if you're accidentally upshifting or downshifting when you don't want to.
Yeah. So the settings that he shares in here, a few weeks ago we talked about the sense of speed video where he talks about your FOV, and these are some of the changes that he suggests to make with the laser scan. So it's changing the resolution on it, and I've done it. I don't know if it looks any different. I honestly feel like it feels a little bit different. I feel like I get a little bit better resolution. It's the tracks just feel a little bit different. Whether that's placebo effect, I don't know, but I definitely think it made a difference. I did change the sequential shifter. I never had any issues with double shifts anyway. So to me, it was a no-brainer. And the other thing he says, just make sure that if depending on what your monitors are, whether if you're in triples, make sure you pick either you've got curved or you've got flat. So,
and I'm a little
And that
I'm a little
matters.
flabbergasted that it would actually change the handling of the track, because that would be exploit city.
I need to go. Sense of Speed just explains it a lot better than he did, so I need to go back and look at that again. I know that it is graphically, but I would. I don't know. I guess I need to reread that.
Got the
I don't see how it
impression.
could change the physics.
No, I don't know about the physics, but I think the first thing changes the like pixel density, that kind of thing, and then the shifter thing. They have a built-in 80 milliseconds, and so basically you change that to 0, because you probably don't need that 80 millisecond. And then the final thing, curved or flat, he shows the difference of as you toggle that out, it actually changes the view. When it's curved, it the center of the screen, the perception of it changes just a little bit because if you think about it, it's an inch deeper than the rest of the screen because of the curve, and so there is a visual compensation for that. So that's why it's important to pick that.
All right, next is a real quick hit, but this is your car, Mike, isn't it? The F4 taking a lap at Olton Park.
Normally, I just wouldn't put a simple video like this out, but because it is my car, my track, yeah, I thought we'd take a quick look at it. This car is awesome, guys. I can't tell you how popular it is. How there's always multiple splits. It's very, very competitive. They got them going off. You got fixed racing, you got the regional racing, and they offset each other, so you can literally run this thing all day long. But yeah, they're just touting its popularity. Pretty fun car.
All right, and I think we're getting into the event section now. First up, coming, the iRacing presents the 2024 Crandon Championship. So these are Pro 4 trucks going from August 21st through 25th. What else can you tell us about it, Brad?
Yeah. So, like you said, August 20th through the 25th. So license is going to be a D 4.0 road, dirt road. Session formats for all nights, split sizes of 20. It's going to be a 10-minute practice, 7-minute qualifying. Have a 6-lap heat race, 20 drivers. Finishing order determines the main race lineup, and then with the 3-minute warm-up, feature race 10 laps, 20 drivers. I do not do any dirt stuff, so I wouldn't even know where to start.
The way this one's going to work as well is you basically will run for the week for the Super Session qualifiers, and then the top so many points will go into the Super Session on Saturday at 15 GMT and Sunday at 01 GMT. Got to have the D 4.0, which I think is standard for just about all special events now.
Just basically what a C.
Essentially, but you don't have to actually have flipped over to C. The only way that happens is if you haven't run enough races in D class to advance or C. That you have to fast track. You have to run a certain number of races and get the SR boost.
Oh, that's right, fast track. We all hate that.
All right, another event is the Sim Racing Expo, Mike.
Yeah, October 18th through the 20th. Tickets are currently on sale, 24.50 euros per day, I guess. Yeah, that's a per day. So it's over 18, 19, 23 days. And now is the time to get your tickets if you're going. Sure wish this was in the United States.
So looking at the Instagram post here, 60 plus exhibitors, 4 sim racing stores where you can actually buy products on site, 25 exhibitors, 23 exhibitors with steering wheels, 18 exhibitors with sim racing pedals, and then 18 exhibitors will have simulators for you to test. So if we've got any listeners out in Europe to go, we would love to get some feedback if you went and what you thought.
We'll be watching the videos.
I wonder if what is it, Lawrence Suswa has done the last couple where he's actually gone in and just kind of live streamed as he's walked through.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll be doing that again. So that'll be how we find out what's happening, I'm sure.
All right, let's talk this week in iRacing, Brad.
All right, so we've got the Olympic break is over, so the eNASCAR iRacing series is back in session. We're at Richmond this week. All the normal times there started last Wednesday, yesterday. So FIA Esports Regional Tour, the Americans are at Watkins Glen. Asia Pacific is at Mobility Resort Motegi. Europe is at Knock Hill Racing Circuit. As usual, we've got the Ringmeister, Draftmaster, Rainmaster. IndyCar qualifying series looks like is at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the road course this week. And as we've talked already, the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup qualifying series is going on. And I guess Road to Pro is back as well. So that'll be Watkins Glen. Busy week.
Listener Joel Hamilton sent this one in to us. He has a special event going. He is with V2R TV. They're hosting a never before done sim racing tournament. We've united 10 different US based arrive and drive sim centers in 8 different states. Each location is allocating a couple of their available sim rigs for this campaign with a combined 30 sim rigs or 30 finalists. Open qualifying starts August 15th, runs through September 15th. Top number of drivers based on how many entries will be invited back to their locations on September 25th for a heat-based tournament running the Ford Mustang at Watkins Glen. Drivers will be competing for their share of $3,000 so far, and the winning driver earns $1,500 as the top 5 get paid out. What a neat idea. And kudos to Joel for trying to herd cats, because this must be really hard to organize, to get 10 different businesses to commit to this, and then to organize it and make it happen. Very cool.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the locations. Looks like we've got Gripworks in Washington, Sim Racing Chicago, the Flying Lap in Missouri, Sendit Sim Racing in New York, Oasis Sim Racing in Texas, My Fastest Lap in Indiana, Drive Simulations in California, Super Lap in Michigan, Circuit Sim Racing in California, which is that one's in LA, and then the Skip Barber Racing in New York as well. So kind of spread out somewhat, but yeah, it's pretty neat. Qualify at home and then get to go and actually compete at a location.
Podcast housekeeping. Leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform to make it easier for more listeners to find us. Mention the podcast to your fellow drivers so they don't miss out. We do appreciate it. Get involved in the Discord. Boy, there's a lot of discussion going over there. We've been talking about how to set up HDR. What should I do about my pedal problem? There's a bunch of stuff. So get involved. The iRacersLounge.com is where you find our show notes. And we're in regular rotation at Performance Motorsports Network. And don't forget your merchandise. We have really high quality hats and shirts at iRacersLounge.shop.
Okay, the first hardware item is DSD Sportsman Button Controller. It's new for 2024. It's a nice little carbon fiber look with looks like 5 two-way rotary encoders, 8 push buttons, and an 8-way position rotary switch. I think that'll be. I'm curious if that's how that's going to work, because most of the rotary switches need to be 12 on most of the sports cars. But that's a nice little inexpensive one that might be good for sports car type use.
It's like no bigger than a mouse. It's not really that big.
Yeah, if you click on the link, you can see it's. I mean, it's kind of like I don't know, maybe a decent sized phone. I mean, it's a large. It will be like a large phone if you look at it. At the shot he's
It's
got with it in his hand.
it's 16 centimeters by 9.8 centimeters by 2.8 centimeters.
Inches, please.
Bucks.
Couldn't help it.
Hypocrite much?
Couldn't help it.
But look, there's a trend right now with tiny button boxes or small, like the little panels, sim racing panel that looks like it got the lighted up buttons. So this is kind of what I would call like a cheap man's version.
Look, I mean, I think Derek Spear does some great stuff. I mean, I had his ones when I had my Fanatec. What was it, the CSW? Years ago. So I looked at his stuff when I was getting button boxes, but no, he does some nice stuff. And I mean, $100. You need to add something. If you run out of buttons, this is an easy way to add some more to it.
I've been super happy with the ones I have that attach to my DD.
Do you have the cluster, Dave, like the dashboard one, or do you have one that just?
I have a pair, right, that attach right to the drive, and on one side I've got like a row of toggles, buttons, and knobs, and on the other side I've got the big push button and a couple of
It's
throttle switches.
Derek Spears.
Yes,
one?
CST. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So
You can pick which button layout you want on each
Yeah,
side.
it's his dashes. I like those because they go right around like behind your rim and stuff.
Yeah, that's what I had on the old Fanatec CSW.
I feel like this. I would mount this like like the bar that your mouse pad on like an 8020. If you have your mouse pad attached to the sidebar, you could put this right by it, and it would be kind of just hand, right at your fingertips level. You don't have to reach for it or anything like that.
That's not a bad idea.
So since Max has been told he can just sim race all he wants, this next one is right up his alley because he can literally just take it on the plane, put it in the and pop it out of the carry-on baggage area when he wants to sim race.
That's a D-box one too.
That would be funny. I wonder if it would actually cause turbulence on the plane.
What we're looking at is MSim put up a picture of what they call their flight case. It's designed to transport our racing and flight simulators with ease. And so basically it's a road case like you would see for, rock stars who are on tour and they put all their equipment in big old rolling road cases. So it's that kind of case, massive, but it's big enough to put a full simulator in it with screens. And so that way it's all set up. They just pull off the top and it sits right on the base and it's easily transported.
Now take note that simulator is a pretty bare bones simulator.
I think it's just an example though.
Yeah.
I think
the footprint in an 8020 is going to be quite a bit bigger.
See, that's but obviously if you put it in there, I would leave it on the platform and just take the outsides off, or if you was at your house, right? But obviously this is, what was it, Max Verstappen's, was it a flower guy that delivered his stuff?
Yeah.
I wonder if something like this was what fit in the back of the flower guy's truck. Because even, I know, Mike, you were saying like musicians and roadies and stuff deal with this, but even F1 teams, they transport stuff and things like this too as well, plus, the ship, like inside the shipping containers.
Imagine you're in charge of the NASCAR trailer at the racetracks where they have the simulators out behind the grandstands, and you got to transport these simulators, from one track to another every week. You'd probably want something like this.
Did they have a price on them?
Nah, I went to the website. I can't find anything.
All right, Brad, what's NVIDIA doing again?
So I watched this, and I guess in my time when I was away, I guess NVIDIA has got into a habit of they'll release a new card. They'll basically increase the number, of course, since we're right now the newest is I think the 4090. So they'll release a new version of a card. They'll say the 5080. So, but in reality, it's no quicker than the 4090. It's actually subpar. But then they'll release it for a lower price. So it's just, I don't know. I like NVIDIA, but when I watch stuff like this, I get really mad at NVIDIA. If that makes
It's
sense.
deceptive marketing, basically.
Well, the other thing, the other tidbit I kind of picked up from it was the rumored price is 1,800, which is the same price I just paid for a 4090 for a 5090, and you're probably not going to see the 5090 until well into 2025, according to this guy. So I'm glad I didn't wait. That was the big thing for me. I was like debating: do I wait for the 5090 series card, or before I do my build, or do I bite the bullet and do it now? And so after watching this, I'm just happy that I just went ahead and did it.
Yeah, I just, when I was looking, when I built my computer last year, I spent a long time looking at graphics cards. And again, it gets very confusing because you would think that, oh, well, I'll just go with the 5000 series. That's definitely got to be better. And if you don't take time and look at the actual specs on the cards, you can end up buying something that's actually lower spec, um, and you pay more for it. So I don't know if it's intentionally deceptive, but I don't know, just leaves a bad taste in my mouth.
All right, next up we have a Cube Controls wheelbase that features 23.602 foot-pounds of torque.
V&M, actually, not Cube Controls.
I see Cube Controls on the video, so.
V&M, they're from Vietnam, and this is their high-end wheelbase. And wow, it check marks all the boxes. Now, I got into comments on this video and asked, where did the firmware come from? Who developed the software that drives the force feedback? Now, we know that with Asetek, they licensed a previous copy of SimiCube's firmware for their bases. So I assume V&M was doing something similar. I did get a reply back that indicated no, they didn't get it from anyone else. It is custom. They did their own.
So we've looked at this base before, and if you remember, this is the one that we talked about, that the neck the quick disconnect is huge. I mean, it's just really, really big. It is this is a massive wheelbase. We looked at it, I don't know, maybe a month or so ago.
So if it was in the military, it would be a Marine. Y'all missed the fact that I converted the torque amount. It's 32 Newton meters, which is a lot of force.
It is. I mean, it's more headroom than you'd ever need. Again, it's a massive base. Really, really big. Like I said, you look at there's a shot on there, and you can see that I don't want to say the shaft, whatever you want to call it. I mean, it's big.
1,250. That's the cheapest price for that Newton meter we've seen for sure. That's the same price as my SimiCube Pro, which is a 25 Newton meter.
Right, but again, they're servo motors, so it's all in the software, Mike. Servo motor is somewhat of a servo motor. It's all about how you actually make it operate with the software.
Right, and that's why I asked the question. The software is key, and so with it being custom, I think we need to see some more reviews. I mean, this isn't a review. This is a minute 30-second show off video. So we'll have to watch for some more reviews to see, how does it actually perform.
So you saying a 5 Newton meter wheelbase could be hacked to run higher?
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is just because it's 32 Newton meters, that's fantastic. But if you don't have the right software to drive it, then it's junk. But again,
notchy or something, right?
Yeah, I mean, but again, a servo motor is just they're simple. I mean, left, right, left, right. I mean, there's not much to them. Again, it's what's driving them. Bless you.
I didn't even key up for that. All right, we've got a Boosted Media has reviewed the P1X, Mike.
Yeah, Sim Labs' current offering is called the P1X Pro. I don't even think you can get the original P1X anymore that David has, that I have. Um, these Pro versions, as we've seen with all the different companies, have less slots along the 80/20 type rails, and it gives it a nice aesthetic to it, and you could put graphics on those flat spots and different things, but it offers less flexibility. We've talked about that before. When you go to add something or build something onto it, there's just less places to mount stuff. So other than that, I think it's a great rig. I mean, it's wide. It's wider than the P1X. It gives more comfort, I would guess. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Will Ford talks about the I guess it's 20-degree angle or 70, whichever way you want to go on the uprights, and Track Racer's done the same thing. And he said the problem with it is as you move things up and down, because it's at an angle, if you move it up, it's getting closer to you. So you really got to take a lot of that into consideration as you try to set your rig up. I'm not a fan of it. I'd rather have straight up and down if I want to make an adjustment. And like you, Mike, the having all 4 slots on the side to me are huge. I mean, he shares it here, like the cup holder he's got, he could only attach with one nut because it's designed to go have 40 millimeters between them. So yes, aesthetically, I think it looks nice, but from a practicality standpoint, I'm glad I've got my Track Racer TR160 with all the 4 groups in there, so I can do whatever I want to do.
I agree. I think if I'm buying a rig today, I'm probably going to buy like the Track Racer TR160S or the ASR6 from Advanced Sim Racing, similar to what Greg got.
All right, this
Which
next
is,
one.
the standard, uprights, nothing at angles, has all the slots, the normal type rig.
Sorry, didn't mean to step on you there. Next up, we have Grizzly Sim Engineering GT3 Stream Deck button box, and this is a sticker shock. I'm just kind of wondering why would you kind of option. It's just a few buttons. You got 2 7-way switches, 3 encoders, a main switch, and an aluminum, and it basically just covers up a Stream Deck, and that's for €400.
Way too expensive. I
That.
thought it came with the Stream Deck.
But it gives you that GT3 dash look. You mount that over on the right, tons of carbon fiber. If you're looking for a look,
coin. It ain't worth that kind of coin. It needs more buttons. Title idea. All right, so we've been talking lately about some companies in the sim world kind of getting pushed out. And is that what this next one is talking about? Is it, at least that's what the title hints at? Is it over for Logitech and Thrustmaster, Brad?
Yes, we've got OC Racing reviews the PXN V99. This is a wheel base shifter and pedal system. Very similar to what you're going to get with Logitech. This is not a direct drive wheel. It looks like it. You may think it is, but it's not. It's gear driven. Talks about the pedals are okay. They're nothing to write home about. The shifter was kind of nice. I mean, it's a gated shifter. Reminds me of the old what is it? The Thrustmaster TH8. I had one years ago. For an entry level, I think it's probably okay. But it's I mean, if you're in the Logitech or Thrustmaster, if that's what you're kind of the price range you're looking for, I think this is probably a viable option for somebody who's getting in with just entry level. The wheel will come off. I guess there's some options. Maybe they'll have some interchangeable wheels at some point. For me, it's a no go. But again, I'm not looking to get into sim racing.
EXN is the company. And look, it's $230 for the package. I mean, that's cheaper than a Logitech or a Thrustmaster, I believe. So, if you're new to sim racing and you just want something to get started, this is definitely a contender.
Yeah, gear driven. I think he said it comes in at about 3 Newton meters, which is kind of typical for a gear driven base.
Are we gonna talk about? Do we talk about Logitech and Thrustmaster being less and less likely as an option in the industry now? Like, I feel like Logitech and Thrustmaster made their heyday early, and then we congratulated, or not congratulated, we for staying cheap to their design and being an introductory thing and never getting. They were the last, like one of the last ones into direct drive or coming up with ideas with that. They 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 seem to have taken their time with stuff, and then just to be the entry level. And the other thing is being making products for PlayStation and Xbox has also killed them too, because having to design one or two for each or one for each platform has made them less likely of an option as well for certain things as in the marketplace. I feel like they're just, you don't hear about them anymore as the option.
So if I buy a Logitech, it's either PlayStation or Xbox specific that it can't be used for both.
From the last thing that I remember, you have they have the 920 Logitech, and then the other. I'm wondering if the I could be wrong with this, but I think the newer, they have a direct drive coming out, don't they, Mike? Or a version?
That works on both, but you're right. There was a Logitech 920 that was PlayStation, and then there was a
Yeah,
different
each one
number
had a
for
different
the other
one.
one.
Yeah, the Xbox and them, they license their stuff out differently, and that's why they used to have the the G27 and the G25 versions, and then there was all kinds of different things that weren't allowed, and you couldn't. And Xbox had to come up with their own steering wheel. There was a bunch of problems there, but these were the only options back then.
I think what you're getting at, Greg, is back when I started in sim racing, I only knew about Logitech because I would go to a big box retailer looking for sim equipment, and that's all they had,
Yeah,
right?
you go to Best Buy, you still see Logitech on the shelves or Thrustmaster, right?
Right. And so nowadays, you come into sim racing, you just do a tiny bit of research, you're going to hear about Moza, Sim Magic, and I think Moza and Sim Magic, like with their R5 and so forth, those entry level products, those guys have really taken some market share over the Logitechs and the Thrustmasters, and I think that's why you hear less about them.
Well, and we're also a more online society now, right? So, yeah, you'll go to the box stores to buy stuff, but how many people buy? I don't, I don't think I have any sim equipment besides like a keyboard and mouse that came from the store, like a retail store.
Amazon really changed everything, right? Everybody is a lot more willing to buy things or at least look at them online now. Mike, why don't we skip down and talk about spend Mike's money? Because we are getting a little tight on time here.
Okay. Yeah. So I had a situation where my brakes were going south. Like I would push down on the throttle all the way. I mean, the brake all the way, and it would only show 50% throttle in the sim, even though I calibrate all that. And it got into a point where I basically couldn't race. So I ordered a new sensor off Amazon for like $30, tried to replace it. When I did that, I heard this, I unscrewed it and a big old swoosh came out of it. And now the pedal doesn't work at all. And so it's all hydraulic and everything, and it's over my head, and I'm not really willing to try to figure it out. So I asked you guys, I asked the Discord community, what do I do? Spend my money? Am I gonna buy the pedals I want? Which was really a toss up between Active Pedal from SimiCube or Lawrence's Sim Coaches hydraulic pedals. And so those were the two I was considering. But the fact that I just spent $3,100 on the monitors and I spent $4,100 on my computer, another $250 on a headset, I'm just tapped out. I could afford, 20, 2 to 3,000 on pedals. I do have the money, but then the stock market crashed, on Monday, and I'm like, this looks really ugly. What's happening with our country? And so I made the hard decision about, well, what am I going to do? Am I going to get the expensive pedals or am I going to find something to tide me over? So I ended up with, I'm going to buy something to tide me over. I ended up on Amazon and I bought the Simpson PC Simulator Pressure Hydraulic Cockpit Pedals. It's a 3-pedal set, silver. It comes with a base plate and a heel plate and all that. Looked kind of like a Heiskenveld knockoff, kind of look. Um, and it was just under $400 with tax shipped. And so that's what I did. I ordered it Sunday night. They shipped earlier today. I get them at some point next week between Monday through Thursday. So I'm literally not racing right now.
Are you a Prime member?
I'm not, but they gave me free shipping.
Look, I've looked at these. I've read a bunch of reviews. I think you found something. I think, Mike, that will be fine for some time. There's so many options with these. Yes, most of these are just knockoffs of Huskenfelds. A little bit lighter, probably grade aluminum or CNC, whatever they're doing. But I think you'll be fine.
I do too. I think these will be suitable. Look, I told everyone, look, I'll probably get the active pedals in 2025. That'll be a project for next year, once I recover financially from all the stuff I've been doing. And I hope these will get me by. Now, the concern is I'm in the middle of a championship in the F4. I got a 56-point lead. I ran a couple of races before the brakes quit completely and got some bad results for this week. So I got some points, but not some good points. The guy I'm racing hasn't taken a start this week yet, so I'm still holding my 56-point lead. But sure enough, he's going to win a race this week or come in top 3 and probably take the point lead from me. So I'm just chomping at the bit to try to get these pedals installed quickly and get back and try to see if I can recover the championship.
Hey, Mike, give me your login. I'll get you a start.
But do realize that drop weeks will be kicking in this week. All right, this is the 9th week, so he's not going. You have 8 weeks of races in.
I understand, and I hope that works in my favor. I haven't looked at the math to see specifically, but I hope I'm okay. That was a tough decision, guys, to decide. Because look, just a week ago on this show, I was saying what? I was preaching it. Buy once, cry once. If you're going to buy something, buy what you want and get the product you're going to keep forever. And here I am a week later, literally going against my own what I said. But look, money's money, and I've already spent a lot of it. So.
Well, you said it earlier. The Olympic break is over. Let's start talking results.
Okay, Brad, IMSA P3.
Yep. So, like you, Mike, I'm kind of in this championship for Division 3 on IMSA. Going into the week, I was 4 points behind the leader. So started P2 at Road America, led almost all the laps. Lost the lead right before pit stops. So the guy that was running second was a little bit quicker. It's typical with multi-class racing. Being in the GT3s, you're always having to deal with the quicker classes coming around you, and depending on how they catch you, you end up with you find a spot where they can get around you, where you don't lose time, where you do. So that was kind of how it was going. So lost the lead 1 lap before pit stops, stayed out 1 extra lap ahead of him. Had a good stop, came out very quick. He had a very slow out lap, so I had a gap on him, took the lead back, led all the way up to the last lap. Again, as traffic would catch us, we would kind of go backwards and forwards. So last lap, come through the carousel. I've got a GTP coming up behind me, and I'm like, surely this guy is not going to try to pass me going into the kink. Oh no, he's got to throw it in there going into the kink. So needless to say, he's 6 laps down. He's 18 laps ahead of the guy behind him, throws it into the kink and loses it and wrecks me. So, what do I got? Like 3 corners left and I'm going to get a win. I managed to limp the car to third, just super frustrated. This is my frustration with guys in faster classes. The guy had nothing to gain at all, yet I had everything to lose. So just a super frustrating.
Kind of stuff should be protestable.
I did. And I got the normal response that you get.
Okay.
Yep. You know what response I got. So just again, and the guy that finished second, honestly, the guy that won the race, who was running second, he waited just right up at the line for me, hoping that I was going to be able to get going. And I think he was going to let me pass him to take the win, but second place the guy that was in third got past me. He went ahead and crossed. I'm glad he did. Super nice guy. We talked for about 10 minutes after the race. Of course, the guy just immediately disconnects, just immediately wrecks me and immediately disconnects. So, and again, we talk about iRating. I was 2,300 going into that race. This guy was, I think he was probably like 14 or 1,500 iRating. So shouldn't have even been in there. And that's the frustrating part of it.
15 under par and the no balls open.
Yeah.
Let's talk Richmond NIS last night. Because I have no pedals, I spotted Justin Pearson. Justin was having a great race, running basically top 5-ish. And he spun out coming off of turn 2 onto the back straight on his own. Once he got in the back, he never really got back up there and got wrecked out. He didn't finish the race. Bobby Jonas was also racing. He got wrecked out like really early, like within the first 5 laps, I think. And then Tom Dreiling was running as well. I ended up spotting him towards the end of his race, and basically he finished top 5. It was a nice run for him. Didn't really have the right track position to contend for the win. The big thing I think we learned in that race was the top 2 guys at the beginning, the first half of the race, didn't pit till like lap 120. And so they only made like 1 stop, I think, the whole race. But you can stay out. Tires don't mean much here at Richmond. So the recommendation is to the team going forward, don't pit till well after halfway.
So now you've given advantage to all of our people that are going to race against us now, Mike. Why you got to do it?
I'm not racing this week. That's why.
That's it. I'm going to go race that other guy's account that's chasing you in your Formula racing.
Yeah, I'm gonna run tomorrow night. I was out of town for work, so couldn't run last night. Mike, the races that you spotted, look, when we were here in the spring, it was a wreck fest. Was it the same last night?
A bit, but not as much, I would say.
Okay.
While y'all were running that, I jumped on and ran the B car at Chicago. Ended up in a 4K strength of field as one of the bottom cars. Conti was in there and won the race. Finished P19 with car 21. So not terribly fast, but it was just my second race in the car, and it was coming back to me the things that you have to do to take care of this car and the tires and such. Um, and what was really nice is I had a couple of guys who were fast early, and I let them go by pretty quick. And when I ran them back down, there's enough, you can get enough of a run in this car because you have enough horsepower that I could pass them. They couldn't hold me up, and it was so nice. So even though I didn't really get a huge I rating boost or anything, it was just nice to be back in that old school kind of racing, where you can pass cars on exit instead of just having to be a bulldozer like you do in the A car.
Right. Other racing I ran over the last weekend. I ran a bunch of hosted racing with Chris McGuire. Now, I didn't track individual results because I was actually busy trying out live streaming to TikTok for the first time. And boy, what a great time I had. Best time I've ever had streaming on iRacing since I've been there. And the reason is I actually have viewers on TikTok. Unlike when I streamed at Facebook or Twitch or YouTube, where I might get one or two stragglers. I had at times 95 people watching all at once. Most of the time, it was somewhere between 30 and 50 people watching at the same time. I was even getting commentary from people and different things. I also will say that TikTok has some amazing software that's a OBS knockoff. It's their own OBS, so to speak, but it's super user friendly. You don't have to know a lot to use it. I was able to set up a stream with a couple cameras in just a few seconds. So really looking forward to doing that again, and getting involved in the TikTok streaming. It's kind of trendy to be streaming sim racing on TikTok. There's a lot of different channels out there doing it that have thousands of viewers, way more than I do, and so I'm hoping to kind of get into that niche. Okay, with that, we'll jump to final thoughts. David Hall.
I kind of already said it. Starting to dabble into the B car, and I think I'm going to enjoy it for a while as just a nice break. Didn't see any names other than Mike. Well, actually, no. In this split, I saw a few really, really fast drivers that I recognized, but they just in this car they don't have to drive you like a jerk. They're fast enough; they just go right by you and going about their way. So that was refreshing. I've been doing a lot of IMSA too. I learned Fuji a couple of weeks ago. I'm just not putting in results, I guess, other than wins. I might start putting in podiums. I know me and Brad got to run a Road America together, didn't we? And I came in like P5 on that one, I think.
Yeah, I didn't put mine in on that. I was 8. That was a higher class. A higher split. So,
And we do have we're going to run that global conspit. Me and Greg and Tom, and maybe a guy I know from flying are going to try to run that global conspit coming up here for Le Mans here in a week.
Hey, Greg Hectus, final thought.
Life's been getting in the way the last week or so. We have a new pet in the house. Someone decided they didn't want a dog anymore and left it at my work to, I don't know, get hit by a car or something like that. So we took her in and been trying to get her acclimatized with the house the last couple weeks here. So took her to the vet last week. That's why I missed the show. But yeah, I haven't really got much racing done. I've been trying to build the new streams and do a whole bunch of stuff here online as well, and try to stay awake when I get home after working 60 or 70 hours a week too. So life has definitely hit me hard in the summertime here, but we're making it work. I'm looking forward to running tomorrow night in the NIS possibly.
Great. And then Brad Wren, final thought.
like I said, glad the break's over. Looking forward to get back to Richmond. It was 10th in points in NIS after before the break. So again, trying to just climb up into the top 10. So excited to see what the the 360 hertz update for Sim Magic's going to feel like. I haven't had a chance. And then again, it's kind of a, just going after this IMSA championship. As close as I've ever been to getting the chance to win a season championship in a division. So just going to try to get that. And, was going for my third win last week, and you said stack them up, and daggone it, I was trying. It is what it is.
Great. My final thoughts. Wow, it's been a long time since I've been like dead in the water, not able to race. So it's kind of an odd feeling. I've been still trying to make HDR work. I tried again today with some additional help from Scott Velez. Thank God bless Scott for trying to teach me how to do it, but I still can't make it work. The reds look horrible. The reds are like this dark red, and I'm doing everything that he's telling me to do. And look, the equipment should work. I mean, these are LG Ultra Gear. I mean, it says HDR when I bring up the little menu. I can't figure it out. But if anyone has any ideas that I haven't tried, let me know. And with that, hey, we'll see you on the track later.
Mike, I tried twice, and I still can't get it to work either. It just looks horrible.
I don't think you and I are doing anything wrong. Like, I went through the instructions again and just made sure everything was just right, and still nothing. So I don't know what it is. It's kind of irritating that I have these monitors and everything and the graphics card capable of it, and I can't seem to turn it on.
How about
Right,
what's
let's
that? What's that in inches?
I was thinking, what's that in foot pounds?
All right, let's vote. We got 1, 2, or 3. I kind of like 3.
3.
Yeah, 3.
Okay, so 3 it is. Good show, guys. Thanks for coming.
I love being the only Canadian.
Yeah, Tony used to be here. Yeah.
And he actually
Maybe we need to recruit.
He actually sounds Canadian. Well, except for that weird Salika. Yeah, are we off stream? It sounds like a bad baby name. Is what that sounds like.
All right, I'm gonna get some food. I'll see you guys.
All right, Mike. All right, I'm gonna jump off, and I will get everything updated.
It's converting the files now for download.
All right. See you hopefully tomorrow night, Greg.
Yep. Now we just got to get Tom to do it. Herding cats, man. Yeah, it's like I put that up 2 weeks ago. Yeah, and I'm playing a musical, so hopefully Tom can cover that little gap there. All right, I'm out.